When I think about Minnesota African United, I think
just that platform where like it kind of brings everyone together.
A conduit, for professionals to
learn, educate, and discuss problems and possibly solutions for all Africans to improve the life of Africans in Minnesota.
To me, is that umbrella organization where I believe every African diaspora in Minnesota should belong to.
Minnesota African United seeks to build a bridge between African in the diaspora and African living on the continent to create a marketplace where goods and services can be traded globally.
There are all kinds of professional development opportunities. African immigrants in the state of Minnesota are provided opportunity to be, players, in the economic activities of the state.
If you have the commitment to empower your community, then this is a place for you.
In thriving for the welfare of all Africans within Minnesota, MAU has established 10 working committees with people that are passionate and working around the clock on all issues pertaining to Africa. If your subject of interest is not listed, join us so we can create a committee around your interest.
People like me and you trying to see how we can help and grow ourselves. Remember, if you're not at the table, you're in the menu.
We can decolonize our mind, or at least get that opportunity to see one another not just as West African or East African or Southern Africa, but as African together, trying to solve problem with African solution.
Like the African proverb goes, like you go farther together in order to empower like the whole community to basically rise up.
We believe in the nations of Africa, in the continent-wide spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation.
The African continent is home to many of the fastest-growing economies in the world, with the rapidly expanding middle class, a young, diverse workforce, urbanizing populations, and endless opportunities.
One of the most important elements of it to me is to shift the narrative in the way that the West engages with Africa writ large. For far too long, it has been seen as a region filled with problems and few opportunities. And I think that we should be shifting that to look at it as a region that does have challenges, but is also filled with opportunities.
Prosper Africa brings together the power of 17 U.S. government agencies and market experts to identify investments, secure deals, and create new trade pathways between the nations of Africa and the United States.
I'm a huge fan of Prosper Africa. I've seen what it can do and how it can help companies like Cisco and how engaged the people on the ground are. They also bring a very clear and objective view of what their role is going to be, what their expectations from Cisco are.
We're a one-stop shop, so companies don't have to waste valuable resources navigating Washington to do business in the United States and across the African continent.
Working with Prosper Africa is so easy because there's a deal room and we're able to present a pitch. And Prosper Africa basically stands as an intermediary between us and investors and businesses that could be interested and help bridge the gap. So it actually ends up being easier for us than to spend the effort chasing individual investors sort of across the US.
Through Prosper Africa, the U.S. government has helped close hundreds of deals, generating billions in new exports and investments. And the prospects for future growth and continued shared prosperity are as large and as vibrant as the continent itself.
I used Prosper Africa's support to identify the appropriate funders for our organization.
Prosper Africa can give us that introduction. They can give us the credibility. They can help us validate us as being good actors. And that's the important thing.
Being able to use this Prosper Africa platform allows us to reach the right investors, that allows us to grow and scale our business to the rest of the emerging markets.
Working hand in hand with the private sector and African governments, Prosper Africa strengthens two-way trade and investment, supporting thousands of jobs for African and American workers.
We must all work together to advance our shared vision of a better future, a future of growing trade and investment that advances prosperity for all our nations.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending our webinar this morning. My name is Basilai Joe, and I am the Chief Executive Officer for Minnesota Africans United, also known as MAU. MAU was founded in 2017 and have been growing every year since then. We are a coalition and statewide organization for all African immigrants in Minnesota. We represent Africans coming from all of our 54 African countries, having more than 350,000 immigrants living here in the state of Minnesota. Today, MAU is excited to host our third of 6 webinars of 2022, with the first being focused on Malawi, the second on Cameroon, and the third today focused on new opportunities of trade and investment in the country of Ghana. Our goal today is to address the needs and concerns of both African diaspora and US businesses interested in doing business in Ghana, and that will create jobs for African diaspora in both Ghana and the United States. Today, following this webinar, MAU will be facilitating and leading a trade mission to Ghana and Cameroon to build business partnerships and joint ventures. Our trade mission is actually scheduled for July 2022. Today, we are excited to have our keynote speakers, Laurie Kelleher, Commission Officer, Commercial Service in Ghana, who will share opportunities under the African Continental Free Trade Area, and Mr. Simon Maji, who is the Executive Secretary, American Chamber of Commerce in Ghana. He will present on successes and challenges of doing business in Ghana. We are also honored to hear from successful African businesses that have traded with US partners in a way that promote trade and investment between Africa and United States. Our panelists include Stephen Wallace, who is the founder and president of the Manhane Cocoa Bean Company, Mr. Abdi Wahab Mohammed, he is the regional trade manager at the Minnesota Trade Office, and Mr. Santiago Davila, who is a residing commercial officer at the U.S. Department of Commerce. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Mark Ritchie, president of Global Minnesota, who will kick us off with our first keynote speaker, Laurie Kelleher. Thank you.
Thank you, Basil. And again, congratulations to Minnesota Africans United. This whole series, those webinars that have already occurred and the ones coming up have been very important for building out what Global Minnesota thinks is fundamental value, that trade is a two-way street, that relationships are what we build our futures upon, that understanding and engagement is the way that we find a path towards greater prosperity, but also peace and also further understanding as we tackle challenges of climate and COVID and everything else. And so I'm thrilled as the president of Global Minnesota to partner with Minnesota Africans United and to bring today's webinar into this international audience that have tuned in for today's special guests. We are thrilled to feature as our keynote today, Laurie Kelleher, who is the commercial officer in the U.S. Embassy in Ghana. Those are our special representatives who are there to help facilitate trade and investment. You saw some of the information about Prosper Africa. That's just one of the many ways. But Laurie Kelleher has 20 years of working both in our trade representative's office, in the State Department, in the Commercial Service, which is part of the Commerce Department. And her service has taken her from Pittsburgh to Tbilisi, from helping Ukraine in their entering in the global trading system, what we today call the World Trade Organizations, to her current assignment, helping to bridge American interests and interest in Ghana together. We are very grateful to the Commerce Department, the State Department, and all of the federal agencies who've become really key partners to our webinar series. But we're also appreciative of the day-to-day work of helping make trade truly something that brings things together. Lori Kelleher, please join me on the Zoom and take it away.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the kind introduction, Mark and Basil, and I want to thank Minnesota Africans United as well as Global Minnesota for your leadership and for welcoming us. And I want to acknowledge our wonderful colleagues in Commercial Service Minneapolis who are also involved in this panel, and of course our trusted and daily partners here on the ground, the American Chamber of Commerce, who will be panelists later on in the presentation. And I'm acutely aware that there are many wise people that come later in this presentation. So I hope to address three things quickly just to set out a framework, certainly welcoming questions and answers after that, and then look forward very much to the nuances and to the insights of the other panelists. It's very timely, I think, to look at Ghana. There's a lot going on. We're getting an extreme amount of interest in the market. So it's a very timely moment to have a webinar to talk about Ghana and the wider regional integration that's going on in Africa and to think about business missions in the region. So with that, I'm going to attempt to share my screen and there we go. Thank you so much. So first I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. As Mark sort of intimated, we are part of the big Prosper Africa team. That's the US government umbrella for the 17 agencies. We are the Department of Commerce. So a little bit of the tip of the spear when it comes to investigating and articulating for US business, what are the specific opportunities on the ground. And we just wanted to highlight for you quickly that we are an international network of sort of three pillars. We have our domestic network, which is very robust. We have 230 trade specialists across 106 domestic offices. Of course, Commercial Service Minneapolis being your local one. And those folks are able to work with you closely and intimately to identify the appropriate markets to enter. And they're very much networked with us out in the field to identify opportunities. And of course, our two entities work very closely with our headquarters as well, which drives a lot of the trade policy issues. I wanted to just show you quickly our footprint in sub-Saharan Africa visually, so you can see that we have a pretty significant amount of resources on the ground, and we are increasing those resources. I am part of a wave of recruitment and sending new officers out to the region because we value this market and we see the growth potential in terms of the economic opportunities and the demographics to be so important that we want to put more officers in the field. We want to deepen and broaden our ability to support US companies. So we have 9 offices in the region and 22 partnership posts that we cooperate with that can help do business where we don't have an office. We work with our State Department colleagues. And of course, we're all housed, as Mark indicated, within the US embassies in those markets. So we're closely collaborating with our State Department and other colleagues. So turning quickly to Ghana so that we can articulate some of the promise of Ghana and why there is so much interest in Ghana. This is an important market in sub-Saharan Africa for US trade. Population of 31 million, GDP of 72 billion approximately. And even amidst the COVID crisis, where certainly there were some downward turns, we saw some very encouraging growth prospects in the third quarter last year. 6.6% growth was recorded, and some really astounding numbers that were coming out of the services sector in particular and agriculture. So there's a lot of growth going on driven by both the private sector and government activities that is worth examining. The two-way trade we wanted to point out is 2.7 billion. That includes about 983 million in US exports. I would just stress that that's a merchandise trade indicator only. And so I think it really underestimates the actual value of commercial activity that does go on. It doesn't include, for example, our services industries don't get captured by those numbers, or the use of business software or cloud services, things like that, franchising, and certainly the investments that are there. So, but it's just to give you a sense of what the merchandise trade is. And among sub-Saharan markets, Ghana is our third largest export market in sub-Saharan Africa. We wanted to flag that there are some economic indicators right now that are difficulties that people may be hearing about and reading about in the news, and just to be straightforward about those. Ghana is certainly going through a particular period of fiscal tightening. There's some real efforts to try to get debt financing under better control. And the last few months, we've seen some real currency depreciation. It's our sense that the medium and long-term prospects for Ghana remain very, very strong. As Mark and Basile indicated, and even the Prosper video, it's this strong, growing middle class, very dynamic youth sector. They are digitally and globally connected. They are entrepreneurial. So we believe in this potential of this human potential, in addition to the well-known natural resources potential that exists in Ghana. And we think it does drive long-term and medium-term growth prospects. And of course, these economic indicators that we're seeing right now are something that we're here to help you try to navigate, and we can explain them in more detail. If you contact us, we can try to help you think about how to mitigate. Those are the kinds of risks that are out there. We wanted to provide some market highlights, and I think that these really point to the reasons why companies, time and time again, U.S. companies turn to Ghana first when they look at Africa. It has a lot of just going in natural reasons to be one of your immediate first stops in the continent as an entree to the wider market. There's political stability here. There have been numerous democratic transitions, and that I think is one of the primary reasons that people find Ghana to be business friendly. There is this growing economy and middle class that we mentioned. There are already a strong cadre of a wide range of U.S. companies that are in Ghana and are operating there and have been for some time. I'm sure Simon will speak in more detail about his partners and folks that are part of the AmCham. So you come into this market knowing that you have colleagues and others that are very experienced and have been here for a while. There's a high regard in Ghana for U.S. Companies and products, and I know people say that about many markets, and I've lived in many markets, and it's very true here. There's really a people-to-people connection between Ghana and the United States, and there's a real pull culturally between the two countries, and it does translate, I think, into a preference for U.S. goods and services. We also want to highlight, there are just some practical logistical reasons why Ghana is a great place to do business. There are daily U.S. flights direct from both Dulles and JFK on United and Delta respectively, which makes it extremely easy to get here. There's also, of course, it's directly across the Atlantic, and there's an Atlantic port and several other under construction. So this is an easy place to get to and to get your goods to in terms of the continent, much easier than many other places. And then finally, and we'll discuss this more so in the latter part of the presentation, but this idea of using Ghana as a gateway to either the ECOWAS, the West African states community, customs union, or to this emerging African continental free trade area. It makes a lot of sense. You use the African port, you use Ghana as transit, or you build a headquarters in Ghana and you expand from there to use it to access the other markets for your goods and services. And I think that trend is real, and we are seeing companies, make that decision. There are other African countries, of course, who are also playing a role like this, but there is a special role, I think, for Ghana. One of the reasons driving that, and we'll speak about it a little bit more, is that the Secretariat for the African Continental Free Trade Area is located in Accra, Ghana. So this means that the entity that is driving the negotiations on the free trade area and who will sort of be the central nexus going forward on that is based here. And so what we're finding is that's attracting a lot of companies and a lot of the supporting network that surrounds the free trade area. And that is certainly, the price of real estate in Accra is going up because all of these people are kind of moving in. It's sort of a Brussels moment is happening here in Ghana. I apologize, they're doing a fire drill announcement that's going on, so bear with me for a second. I wanted to highlight a couple of sectors that we have interest on a daily basis from U.S. companies across all of these sectors, and I think for good reason. Ghana, of course, has a great deal of natural resources, including in agriculture, best known for cocoa, of course, shea butter, and some other things. But there is really some prospects here for expanding agriculture and the food processing sector, whether that be in terms of industrial equipment that goes into the food processing and packaging sector, whether that's cold chain, whether that's irrigation. Sort of sky is the limit. And there's a lot of activity being done here at the embassy to promote the agriculture sector. So please be in touch if you're on the ag equipment or ag technology side with us. Consumer goods, as I mentioned, there's a really strong affinity for whether it's U.S. personal care goods, over-the-counter medicine, etc. We have a very robust market here of US goods. Energy and mining, Simon maybe would want to speak a little bit as well, but there's a longstanding US investments in projects in this sector, and that extends upstream, downstream, services, equipment, very robust. Healthcare and ICT, I would say, are two of the sectors where we are getting probably the most intense amount of inquiry at this time. And it's the sense that as Ghana develops, they're going to really need further development of their medical sector. And there are a lot of medical device companies, pharmaceutical, medical services, examining the market and pursuing opportunities here. On ICT, we have anything ranging from payment platforms to fintech to cybersecurity, you name it. There's a lot of ICT activity that's going on here, and we're going to be launching a digital trade talk series to bring U.S. companies into the market, even if virtually, to talk to leading private sector and government entities about the solutions that they can provide in the IT space. And I would say that the ICT is really one of those sectors that was driving that 13% growth number that we saw in the services sector in the third quarter of last year. Infrastructure, there's a great deal of road building. There are plans to do port projects, multimodal at the airports. There's residential construction. The list sort of goes on and on. It's very important for companies to have financing that they can bring to the table. It often requires cooperation with the World Bank or other the Development Finance Corporation or other entities to pull these packages together, but lots of opportunities there. And then again, the services industries in general just shouldn't be underestimated. The degree to which we're doing business and services and U.S. franchises in particular, I think is a really growing area. And AmCham and cooperation with us is taking a lot of leadership on franchising. If people want to explore that, please reach out to both of us. And then finally, environmental technology is certainly a priority for the administration here in the US, and there's a need for it here, whether that's solar mini grid to extend electricity out into rural Ghana, or if that's energy efficiency. There's definitely an interest in these technologies here, and there's the sense that, as they build production within Ghana, they want to do it in the right way. They want to, try to they're acutely aware of climate change. They see it on a daily basis, and they want to do the right thing by making efficient production where they can. I apologize. This is the longest doc and cover drill I've ever seen in the US government. So with that, I'll turn for a second to the broader regional integration effort, the African Continental Free Trade Area. And this, I think, is really important for companies to sort of try to get your head around. And it's not easy to do that necessarily, but we're here to help you do that. This is a project that's going to be unfolding over a period of time and has been unfolding over a period of time. We are not a party to it as the United States. And I'll get back to that in a moment, but it is going to be so transformative to doing business in the continent in general that you have to know about it. You have to sort of think and make your business strategies being cognizant of this regional effort that's going on. But essentially, this knits together 55 countries in the region into one free trade area, 1.3 billion people, GDP, cumulative GDP of $3 trillion. The result of this will be the largest free trade agreement ever in the world in terms of land mass and number of countries. And as of January of this year, 41 African countries have already ratified the agreement. There's another 14 that still have to do the ratification process. So this is a work in progress, but they are making really, really strong strides. Again, the U.S. is not part of this agreement. It was not an FTA with us. This does not lower duties on U.S. exports to Africa, but some of the broader reforms that are going to come out of it sort of accrue to everyone doing business in the region. So if they're reforming customs cooperation between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, some of that cooperation will be for anyone who's trading between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, not just the parties to the agreement. So we wanted to just be clear that we're not actually a party to it, but it affects us in certain ways. We wanted to just point to a couple of things. As we mentioned, it's still going on. What does it cover? If you follow trade agreements and you know the chapters that usually fall within US trade agreements, and some of these will look familiar, but it's not every single thing that we would cover, maybe in some of our free trade agreements. But tariffs, rule of origin, services, customs, sanitary and phytosanitary standards, investment, competition, IPR, e-commerce. There's a women and youth protocol that they're working on. And what I wanted to stress to you is that negotiations continue on this. So there are some things that are going to be sort of provisionally implemented in terms of the parties who are ready. And at the same time, there will be negotiations that continue. So this is a little different than what we usually experience in the US, where you really wait until the end when you have the whole package put together and then you start implementation. This will be sort of a more phased situation and therefore requires sort of more attention to understanding what phase are we in. It's a very complex, multi-layered negotiation. There's the involvement of the African Union, heads of state, there's a Council of Ministers decision-making level, there's the Secretariat, as we mentioned. And then I think one of the most important points to understand about the African Continental Free Trade Area is that the implementation is up to the individual African countries to do. And there is, as anyone follows trade agreements will know that implementation is incredibly important. And the results that come from this really depend on, the quality of the implementation, and those will be at the country level. So you have to follow it in the country that you're in and see where they are in the stage of implementation on the issues that you care about. There are already, even though they're still negotiating, there's already some really concrete innovations that have been implemented. In January of this year, the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System was launched. Trade transaction payments can be done in local currencies. This is a really big deal. In the past, countries that were trading with one another in Africa had to use a third currency such as dollars to kind of settle the trade transaction payment. And this obviates the need to do that and makes it obviously much easier for countries in Africa to trade with one another, to put together trade financing, and it speeds up the process and makes it a lot less expensive. So this is a really big practical piece that was put together and is already being marched out. And this entity as well is also located here in Accra, Ghana. So just to be concrete about some of the opportunities that we're already seeing, I think that relate to the free trade agreement. We have, certainly individual governments are launching projects in anticipation of more trade and more trade needing to be moved across borders, most of that is done by truck, freight by truck. So we're seeing, tenders that are being launched to increase, to facilitate and increase road structure, to improve infrastructure, to do multimodal, et cetera. I think we're really noticing in the logistics and express shipping sector that companies are getting their plans together about how to have a continent-wide strategy in a way that they didn't before this. And certainly there are some US and other companies that are looking at how to develop continent-wide e-commerce marketing platforms that have payment mechanisms and shipping mechanisms tied to them. So there's a whole new kind of continent-wide market that's starting to emerge, and all the infrastructure for it is kind of being put together. The physical and the digital infrastructure is being put together. Certainly opportunities in fintech, trade finance. There's a special facility for automotive production that is being financed under this regional trade agreement. They want to create an African value chain and production of new vehicles within Africa. So there's a lot of money going into that, which means that there's going to be opportunities for those who produce equipment that would go into a development of such a sector. And certainly there are going to be openings for people who are involved in business services and cross-border services. It's going to be easier to go from one market to the other. They're opening up their market access and they're having active negotiations on a number of services sectors right now. So the governments themselves are formulating their strategies in terms of how to develop industries that will produce goods that then can be traded intra-Africa, and also the supporting infrastructure. And then as we're noting, the private sector itself, both the international private sector and the domestic, is making their AFCFTA plans and investments now. They're not waiting for full implementation. They're kind of getting ahead of the game and thinking through what are these opportunities and trying to be in the leading edge of what those are. So I know that this is a lot, and we would just like to say that we are tracking this very closely. I know Simon's organization, the AmCham, tracks these very closely as well. They have a resource center. Please reach out to us on your individual sector. We'll do market intelligence reports. We'll put them out on our website. as we track events. You can follow those, but always just give us a call and we're happy to talk through the details about your specific business interests and sectors and how we see it, both bilaterally in Ghana and as well in this wider African context. So with that, I really apologize about all the background noise. Hopefully that wasn't so distracting for you, but please don't hesitate at any point to give us a call or send an email to us. There's my email. We have in our office 4 commercial specialists who are sectoral specialists across the many sectors that I mentioned and have great private sector contacts who can put you in touch with distributors and private partners. So we are here to help you. We have a number of services that can make your business plans more concrete in the market. And with that, I'll just thank you so much for letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori, for that incredible overview, both about Ghana and the opportunities, but also that look at the broader and the new free trade area. And I hope we'll have a lot more opportunity to discuss that. But one of the things that's special about your career is that you've both served in a local office, Pittsburgh, which has got some similarities to perhaps what we're looking at here, and you've served overseas. Could I just ask you to reflect on, let's say somebody is a little maybe shy or maybe not sure, or maybe how would you encourage somebody watching today, or this will be recorded, so there'll be lots of people watching it other time, to get them to make that first email to you or that first contact perhaps with their local commercial service officer? How can you help somebody just needs a little more nudge?
Yeah, absolutely. And we work with completely new to export companies that have never done a single export transaction to Canada, let alone Ghana. And I think that just be in contact. We have a number of ways we can help. We can help you as a small business, for example, even figure out how to develop an export plan. So to make sure you are export ready, and we can coach you to get you there. We can put you in touch with other local partners that can help you, write a business plan, et cetera. So you can start at that very beginning mark, and then we can save you a lot of time and energy in trying to really hone in on which markets make the most sense for the good or service that you have. We can do a lot of preliminary research out of the commercial services office in the United States to help you narrow that down and to start in a place that makes the most sense. So you're not just sort of throwing darts at a map. And a lot of that pre-work can be done with the commercial specialists on the ground. We can certainly counsel you on both U.S. export procedures and the import procedures. Those can be a little intimidating for a first-time exporter, but that's our bread and butter. That's what we do. We can talk you through all those procedures to try to make that easier for you. You don't have to have a big export compliance, wing to your company to be able to navigate these things. We're able to show you how to do that. And then there's a moment where I really do recommend that, working with the local office, you connect to the overseas office and you work this together. And it's usually the formula that happens is either companies call us directly or through the specialists in, let's say, Minneapolis, they give us a call and they say, we've identified this great local partner. We think Ghana makes sense. What's the next step? Let's talk about it. We arrange a phone call. We talk through a little bit with our specialists, what do we see here? Do we see any basic prospects? And then usually some kind of one of our services comes into play at that point, either whether it's an initial market check or an international partner search, or let's say you've been contacted by an international company and you want to vet that company. We can do an international company profile and we can really dig into the bona fides of the company on this end and try to give you some greater sense of their solvency, of their reputation, so you can feel more confident that you found a good business partner. For good or bad, we tell you what we find. So there's a moment which I think that, that some of our services really come into play, and then that helps people kind of get over the edge. And usually we can, even facilitate via video, or if you come here into the market, we can arrange meetings for you to sit down with the partners that we've identified and go with you to the meetings. And so there's really, it's really from A to Z.
Well, it seems like you really focus on the thing that's the most precious, which is time. An entrepreneur or anybody, even a very established company, time is the most precious thing. And so it sounds like you've really thought through how to help people know they won't get into all their time, but there'll be valuable time and there'll be a decision point. Is this worth going ahead, or maybe not now, maybe in a year? But it seems like the creation of this free trade area is game changing. And so one of the things that you've done is you've been active kind of before there was that sort of opportunity. And now, as you point out, the headquarters is there. Can you imagine ways that Minnesota could be influencing or playing a bigger role in thinking through? We have very large diaspora populations. So that's going to be a lot of small businesses and some larger ones. But can you picture a way that Minnesota's diaspora community and broader commercial, we have the most Fortune 500 per capita in the country, all of that, we've got it all. How could we be more influential to be good for both Ghana and for the people of Minnesota?
Well, just bilaterally, I would say that the government of Ghana is very dedicated to networking with and working with and reaching out to the diaspora in the United States. In fact, and I can send you all more information about this. They have a roadshow, a diaspora roadshow that they're conducting from March 30th to April 22nd in the United States across several states, unfortunately not Minnesota, which is, I think, a little bit of an oversight on their part, but they are, so they're actively in the United States traveling around talking to different people and companies. And so that's one concrete demonstration. That's not a one-off thing, though. That's part of a larger strategy that they have to engage. So you have an open door with the government of Ghana on reaching out as a diaspora, and they would be nothing but delighted to be in touch. And I think they have a lot of ideas about not just on the inward investment side, inward investment to Ghana, but just business partnerships in general, and a lot of recognition about the incredible value of the diaspora to the economy and the natural affinity that there is really to do business with one another. So you have a very willing partner in government of Ghana. And likewise, I would say, at this moment, the role of the Secretariat is being better defined. They're really driving negotiations. They're chasing around, sort of all these meetings and wrangling ministers to get decision points, et cetera. But they're already, even though they're so busy with that, they're in the United States this week. Why? Because they recognize the importance of our companies and our economy to making this project work. We're not a party to the agreement, but they know we're that important to it. And so they want to cooperate with us. They want to make connections. So that's maybe something we can talk about further is, how to plug you into sort of their efforts to reach out to the diaspora and the wider U.S. business community.
Well, Minnesota has a lot of friends around the country, so maybe we'll try to get some of our good people to participate where they are, where the Ghanaian government is. But as Basil mentioned earlier, we're planning as trade mission, Ghana, then Cameroon, and it seems like having some meetings that are business to business, of course, that's the main work, but some meetings with the Secretariat and meetings with Ghanaian government will be important to advance and taking your suggestions. I know our Global Minnesota staff from Ghana got stuck there because of COVID, and so did some others from Minnesota. And so we were on the phone a lot, and they were discovering business opportunities that were, kind of not apparent on the surface, but because they were stuck there, it gave us new ways. But one of the things they pointed out was that the COVID crisis had lifted up some production capacity within Ghana because they couldn't just bring in rice from someplace or tomatoes from someplace. Can you give us a sense, and I know this is a relatively new posting for you, but you've been around a while. Can you give us a sense of some of those specific sectors that maybe are the ones that are going to be let's say, the star pupils over the next period that we could be saying, oh, let's follow where the puck might be going. Help us see where that puck might be going.
Sure. And here, I'll be delighted to also hear the rest of the panelists' insights on this when they come on the screen, especially Simon. But I think out of COVID, like everywhere else in the world, that one of the winners of COVID, if anything, was sort of the digital space, right? Like the delivery companies, the e-commerce platforms, and all of that got accelerated here, just like it did in the United States, and became very robust and became widely used by consumers. So that there's a reason that the ICT sector is booming in a sense. It was driven by a lot of that. So the financial services space, likewise, mobile payments, things like that. So I think that was something coming out of the crisis that emerged a little bit. We're really hoping that agriculture, is a big ag processing is a great sector. There's really a struggle here is everywhere right now in fertilizer. So we're looking at that space, I think. If there are any Minnesota companies that have fertilizer to sell, please call me immediately once this webinar closes out. I have 10 customers for you. So we're hoping that space can be, developed, and we're seeing real concrete projects that are coming through. I just want to also highlight everyone's attention to the Development Finance Corporation, because they can make private sector investments, equity investments, direct investments. And this really helps put together packages of partnership and sales of supplies.
Say just a little bit more about that, because I don't think most people watching know what you're referring to.
Sure. So in 5 or 6 years ago, we would have known them as OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. And it's been sort of reformulated, and it is a major U.S. financing agency. And I think some of the recasting of it had to do with making sure that we can compete in countries like Africa, in continents like Africa, vis-a-vis other countries that bring to the market, some very low interest financing packages, et cetera. So the DFC has some very wide capabilities right now to work with U.S. companies in the private sector to put together investments they can be equity investors in projects, for example. So I can when we move on, I'll put their link in the chat and people can check it out. But as we talk about this broad Prosper Africa umbrella, the DFC is certainly under that. U.S. Export-Import Bank.
So it's part of State Department? It's like
no, it's a separate U.S. government agency.
Okay, so you'll put in the link, and I think one of the questions is, of course, all these different USAID. I mean, all these different things: Power Africa, Prosper Africa. But what I'm hearing you say is that because you all have the same values and the same purpose, sort of assisting, making sure that these channels of commerce and investment are working together, that we can talk to one of you and you're taking our interests and you're thinking of the other agencies and then plugging us in. And it seems like that's the
absolutely. We do that all the time.
That's the sweet spot.
Connecting people
with
XM and DFC and Small Business Administration, whoever.
Well, so a couple of people wanted me to tell you that they couldn't hear that noise in the background, just so.
Bless you all.
Bless you. But we're running out of time for this kind of fabulous section of our program, and Simon's next. So we're going to pick up some of these threads, but you've had a life of service, especially of being overseas and thinking about the two-way street. And you've been also, when you helped Ukraine figure out about accession to what we now call the World Trade Organizations, and then how to work within a rules-based system. Do you have some advice that's come from a life of seeing this in a global perspective that could help people understand just how important they making a trade deal can be to helping the world be a more peaceful and prosperous place?
Sure. And at first I'd say that, I'm really excited to be in Africa in this moment. I feel like, I spent a lot of my career in Eastern Europe and the fall of the wall and all of that. And, I certainly observed the rise of Asia. And I think Africa is entering in, maybe the Southeast Asia model is the better analog here. But Africa is where sort of Southeast Asia was maybe 20 years ago. And the demographics in Africa are so steeply high in terms of population when Asian growth is going down. And the growth rates here are still growing where other ones are sort of tapering. So I just really feel like this is the moment, this is the emerging market moment of Africa. And it's just really great to kind of be here on the ground while things are so dynamic and trying to change, to be part of that change. And I think, anyone who's traveled a bit will see that the transformation that happens with development, and a lot of that development comes from private sector activity, actually. So you've been in Thailand in 1980 and you go to Thailand now, it's a completely different place. And that's because Thailand got integrated into the global economy. They're a major auto parts producer that, so this integration, and it brings people up, it changes communities. And when you do business abroad, you're part of that. So in addition to the profit side of it, of course, you really are transforming lives, I think, and helping, the overall development picture.
Well, thank you so much for being a representative of that global view, being a representative of our nation and our nation's best interest, but also for you applying your insights over 20 years of doing this work into maybe the most important place that we could be focused at this moment. Minnesota Africans United, of course, this is our big mantra here, but to have you with a life of service around the planet to help remind us is just such a blessing. And we are so grateful that you take your time today. And we look forward to those emails flowing in and that connection going on, and for that trade mission where we'll be visiting you at your backyard in the month of July. Thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Great. Wow. So that was a great way to start this. And we are so grateful. We have been very blessed to have commercial service people in our various embassies and all of the webinars we've been doing. And so this is a really great way to begin getting the big picture. But another fantastic partner, really almost wherever you go on the planet, but especially in Ghana, is the AmCham, we call it, the American Chamber of Commerce. And we're very blessed to have our guest this morning, the Executive Secretary of the American Chamber of Commerce in Ghana, Simon Maji, who's also a lawyer, trained in business management, in public administration, in digital marketing. He's done it all, and he's putting his focus on helping the AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce, build out its presence, but also in making these connections really turn into new opportunities, new business deals, new investments, and all. We had a wonderful conversation just a few weeks ago, and I'm so thrilled that we're able to welcome Simon to the screen. And Simon, please give us your perspective on how Minnesota and Ghana can help make the world more peaceful and more prosperous.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark Ritchie. And there's, special commendation to you and the team at Minnesota Africans United and Global Minnesota, as well as to my good friend, Mr. Basso, for putting this program. Just a minute, let me share my screen. Okay, so thank you. And I must say that Laurie has done a good presentation, a good job. She's done much of the heavy lifting for all of us. She's giving you, insights about the country and how it works, and the opportunities in the country. So I will zoom in straight to talking. She's already spoken to you about Ghana, where Ghana is located, the population of Ghana. She's spoken about the natural resources of the country. For the purposes of my presentation, these are some of the successful U.S. companies operating in the country. It's both Fortune 500 regular companies. We have those in franchising as well, which is a growing industry in our country, Ghana. So I will start by looking at advantages of doing business in Ghana. Laurie has already said Ghana is politically stable. There's a fair rule of law, and there's subscription to democratic culture. Ghana is way ahead of many other African countries when it comes to democratic credentials. And she's spoken about several elections and change of government through the ballot box. There are independent institutions, and there are institutions that look after the private sector and general dispute as well. So that is one advantage. There's also the language and the human resource. Many Ghanaians speak English, which many Americans do as well. And they've been doing for many generations until we're even colonized. The human resource is easily trainable. And so you have available workforce. Majority of Ghanaians are youth out of university. So when it comes to looking for human resource, that it's not an issue at all for those who are doing business here. You can also, per the laws, repatriate your profit, which is granted under the laws of Ghana. So if you invest, it's much easier repatriating your profit. There is access to raw material, depending on your industry in this country. As Laurie has already said, Ghana is hub for West Africa. She's mentioned the AFCFTA. You can easily connect to the rest of the continent and to Europe and to America as well. Many investors have said that Ghana is Africa for beginners, and so it's much easier starting off here. It's a big advantage. We also share the same values. We subscribe to democratic rules. We speak the same language. We have the same legal system. And so we share the common values of living together and living in peace and making progress. And so Ghanaians share that with the United States a lot. And there's also a huge diaspora engagement, as Laurie has already intimated, which is ongoing. So these are some of the advantages of doing business here in Ghana. There are advantages, there are also challenges that you have for doing business in a typical African country. So one of them is the infrastructure. I mean, the infrastructure is improved as compared to many other places, but it's not as you find it in the US or any of the developed world. There are still issues of road. There's still the issue of cost of electricity. Here is one of the places where the kilowatts per cent per kilowatt is pretty high. So electricity, the tariff is quite high here. There's still internet connectivity if you move outside of the major trading regions or the capitals, which is Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi or Tamale. There are problems with internet. There are issues with water as well. There's also the issue of interpretation of laws and regulations by implementation agencies. So sometimes if you're looking at the tax law and you go to let's say the tax authorities or what we call here the Ghana Revenue Authority, they have a different interpretation from what is often written in black and white for your own understanding. So if you're coming in, it's important to engage the right tax experts and the right lawyers to navigate you through sometimes what can be a Herculean interpretation of the law by these agencies. There are customer service issues in terms of processing and looking for permits as well and issuing of permits. That is a big challenge here. It can be daunting sometimes because many of the things done here are very, very relational. And so if you don't build the right relationships across the different aspects of government, it may be a challenge for you, and it's one that you have to consider. Ghana, like every other place, there is aggressive drive towards localization, laws and rules. That is happening in the extractive industry, that is happening in the manufacturing industry, and it's happening across all of the business sector where there is a strong push towards localization. So it's something you have to be mindful of and build the right strategies. Otherwise, you're going to have challenges in and around that. So moving on to, let me share with you what we believe are some of the success factors for doing business in Ghana. One, you have to recruit credible local partners. I mean, one of the best ways of entering this market is to look for credible local partners. Local partners understand the terrain. Local partners will help you navigate many of the nuances of doing business here, both the written and unwritten and people's approach to business and all that. So it's important that you recruit credible local partners. Laurie has already mentioned they are available to assist you, look for the right local partners. We are the AmCham here. We are also available to support in your search for credible local partners. You must also project corporate values and systems within your organization. That is a big priority here. And so the projection of the appropriate corporate values ones that will help you succeed in the market. And since you are going to work within a community, it's important to have a good stakeholder and community engagement. Stakeholders are critical and they're important for the survival of businesses here, and it's a critical success factor. I'm happy to announce to all of you that so far, US companies or franchises or companies owned by American citizens in this country have built good networks. They are well respected within their communities. They engage in the right community activities, and they've built a reputation that is respected by many Ghanaians. There must also be training of employees. Training is critical. Skills and knowledge transfer is also critical for doing business here. It's a big success factor. I've already said that we have educated workforce, but training of this workforce to match the needs of the organization is very important. So that is something that must be on the consideration by many of you who are seeking to do business here. I'm joining trade associations like ours. This may be an indirect pitch, but like ours, to network and gain strategic direction, understand where the market is, understand who are the major players and those that you need to engage, and familiarize yourself with the community is equally very important. One other success factor is adherence to legal and regulatory rules. It's very, very important. In this part of the world, it may often be overlooked, but at some point it will catch up with you if you don't. So it's important that you adhere to all the legal and regulatory rules. If it's a challenge that you cannot adhere to, you're joining a trade association to advocate on behalf to have it modified or changed is very, very important. And then one of the other factors as well is to be flexible and then adapt to the environment. Then comes times that businesses must understand the rules of their own engagement and must look to adapting that to the environment as it changes or as directions change or as new opportunities emerge. Doing business here is very fluid. The environment here can be very fluid. Unlike many places where you can predict for a very long time, here you really have to be available to adapt to new challenges. There can be turbulence in the economy. There can be turbulence within the community that businesses must adapt to pretty quickly. And then the last critical success factor on my mind would be adhering to the cultural norms of your area of operation. That is very important. People take their culture very important here, and respecting that culture and norm is one that would endear you to the community and to the people and to the environment in which you operate. Now, Laurie has spoken a lot about the AFCFTA, which is the Africa Continental Free Trade. I'm only here to give you what we are doing at the AmCham. So for us here at the American Chamber of Commerce, we've set up what is called the AFCFTA Resource Center. What is our goal? Our goal here is to help Americans to fully utilize and benefit from the opportunities presented by the AFCFTA. We do this by creating the linkages where businesses like yours, especially those in the diaspora here, can seek support from us to build partnerships that will help them to enter the market, understand the rules at play here, understand the engagement and how to engage, to get into the market, to prepare and build themselves as this agreement is being rolled out. As many of you are aware, trading has commenced, and these are early days yet. But the projection is that in the next 8 to 10 years, this will become fully operational. And so my encouragement to you is to take advantage of this AmCham AFCFTA Resource Center, where we tend to provide knowledge from experts on what's happening around the agreement. We looked at how to bring your businesses, especially those in the diaspora businesses, to connect with local businesses here to build the partnerships to take advantage of this free trade area. So that is one thing, and that will be a big success factor if you're able to really focus and work with us on that. The American Chamber of Commerce, this is just by way of brief history. I've gone it the other way around instead of starting. Is the representative arm of US companies here. It started in 1989 and was officially affiliated with the United States Chamber of Commerce in 1997. It is our goal here is to promote trade and investment, education and commercial ties between Ghana and the United States. And we've been doing this over the years. Our board is made up of US companies, and we are here to promote, project, and protect the interests of US companies and US businesses, US subsidiaries, franchisees, as well as Ghanaians who want to do business with the US. what are the benefits of joining us? So we are the to-go source on local knowledge and resources for U.S. businesses here, investing in Ghana. We engage both U.S. and Ghanaian governments at different levels. We provide you with strategic information and support. We provide you with all the networking opportunities. There are hand-holding services to engage you. We also provide access to other AmChams on the continent because we are a network of American Chambers of Commerce associated with the United States Chamber of Commerce. So I have colleagues in Nigeria, in Senegal, in Cote d'Ivoire, in West Africa that I can reach out to if you want to connect with them or do business with them. I even have colleagues in Cameroon with your upcoming trade mission to Cameroon. So that's what we do alongside roundtables and lunch meetings and discussions to improve the investment environment. You can contact us. Those are my contact details on it. My name is Simon. I'm the Executive Secretary. There are other email addresses that you can reach as well. We are physically located at Mesa Wood, and also you can visit our website. I must end by saying that there are benefits to doing business in Ghana. Those benefits are great, but doing business in Ghana also comes with challenges. And so if you intend on doing business here, you need a plan for the long term. If you must be convinced that this is the market, and once you are convinced that this is the market, you need a plan that will take you the long term. Otherwise, it's not a touch and go situation. If you just do a touch and go situation, you may not reap the benefit. This market is good, but it's also a patient market. It's one that you have to work on. It's one that you have to build relationships across board, and then you begin to take advantage of those relationships to advance your business interest. In that sense, your business will finally get to reap the benefits of your investment here. As Laurie has already said, there's a huge diaspora engagement going on from the year of return to date. They're receiving a roadshow to the United States, of which the Chamber is supporting them with it as well. And we are happy to answer all your questions and to provide you insights on the market. So thank you, and over to you, Mark Ritchie.
Thank you so much, Simon. And again, your comprehensiveness and the depth in which, but I want to thank you especially for your final words, because I do think that one of the aspects of Minnesota Africans United's whole program, and it's certainly what's so attractive for Global Minnesota as the partner, is that we're talking about long-term building relationships and being set to take a patient and careful approach to business, but to all other relationships. And I think it's like the trees we plant that we won't necessarily get to sit under, but our children and their children and others. But it seems to me that you speak with a lot of confidence because you've seen a lot of success stories, lots of difficulties, challenges. But can you give us a kind of recent example of something that, it's been kind of COVID and, all kinds of things. Can you give us a recent example that's really kind of inspired you and your heart and your other chamber members? Because, yes, that's what we want to do.
Wonderful. There are several examples that we can give. Yes, it's true. COVID has brought distraction to many African economies. But for those of us at the Chamber, and I'm sure Laurie will agree, if we look at the interest from franchise companies alone, if you look at the expansion that they are doing across the country, it gives us a lot of hope and confidence that indeed, franchisors from the US can really do business here. So we are not just saying it for the sake of making a statement, but if you look at what KFC is doing in the Ghanaian market, if you look at what Burger King, it's expanding across the Ghanaian market. There are big franchises you see around, like the Marriott, all operating in this market. it inspires us and gives us the confidence. And also another sector which gives us that level of confidence is the digital sector. You can see, the arm of the US in that sector. And so it gives us confidence that Ghana, working with the US, can really expand and grow the digital space for many of our teaming youth here. In and across, the relationship has been good on the political side or on the governmental side, but it's been equally good on the business side. There are numerous US companies that did, fantastically well during the lockdown, especially those in the mining sector. And on this note, I'd like to invite those of you in the mining services to really consider, working in Ghana, because the mining sector, because of gold prices went up, these companies expanded. There are new mining areas that they are working on, and all those provide opportunity and gives us the confidence. What also gives us this confidence is the opening up of our two countries, the United States and Ghana. We had only Delta Airlines flying into New York. Now we have United Airlines, which is joined, going straight into Washington, D.C., connecting businesses, tourists, students, government people. And that exchange gives us the confidence that this is a relationship that is growing from strength to strength and will building on business. Prosperity will come to both the United States and the Republic of Ghana. The general atmosphere about doing business here and the drive that Ghanaians have and the importance that they attach to American businesses, American corporate values, and American values, serves as the foundation for all this confidence that we bring out on day to day.
Well, I'm thrilled that our trade mission will start in Ghana, and also happy it'll go on to Cameroon. And we want to make sure that we make these more often and more direct. But it seems to me that Ghana is becoming, I think Lori used the term like Brussels, but I mean, I think she meant that it is becoming a place of the headquarters of connectivity, of places where, your own work in the context of the other AmChams. Can you give us a 5 or 10 year vision of Accra, of Ghana, in its global hub role, how the rest of us who think that's a great thing might imagine Ghana as a real destination like Geneva, et cetera?
Well, thank you for the question. We are competing like everybody else. Nigeria is competing, Nairobi is competing for the tech hub, for the digital space, digital trade. But 5 years from now, what would I envisage Ghana to be? From 5 years from now, I see a country that is fast growing in terms of GDP. 5 years from now, I see a country that is building the relationship and creating employment for its masses and teeming youth that are coming out of school. 5 years from now, I see many other connectors from around the world coming into Accra, not just to understand the Africa Continental Free Trade, but to set up businesses here to connect to the Africa Continental Free Trade. When I say this connection, what do I mean? We are looking at people in the service sector who will be connecting and educating people on how to do trans-border trade, setting up here. We are looking at people in the digital sector, building the e-commerce platform, which is required to do trading across. And people in policy, people building the infrastructure, all coming together in this country. So 5 years from now, I see Ghana as the #1 place to do business in West Africa. Indeed, many have said we may not be the destination, but we'll be the first entry point for many businesses. And ultimately, they may migrate to other areas when they fully learn their craft and trade in Ghana.
So you were mentioning a sector, mining, and wanted to put an exclamation point and a circle around it. What's important in Minnesota is that I think a lot of people with the word mining, they think of, what the specific extraction may be. But in fact, Minnesota has these incredible mining services, companies that help mining companies have better fuel efficiency, air quality control, the equipment, the Vermeers and all of the different things that go in. And a number of them have been very successful. We've done webinars with Minnesota African United talking about those successes. It seems like there's maybe your assistance to help us educate our sectors more fully about what are some of those opportunities, because in fact, we specialize in Minnesota in some medical devices. It's one of our big sectors. Those devices take very special metals and precious minerals. I mean, Africa is the place on the planet where the raw materials that we need to produce some of the things that are critical to our economy come from. And so I'm wondering if you've seen some openings, or if you have some ideas about how maybe the next round of those trade visits from the Ghanaian government could maybe be in our mining states, and then we could get those mining sector companies to pay attention. What do you think?
Well, I perfectly do agree with you. There's been a boom in mining. And so my suggestion to the companies is to look at the services that mining comes with. And it's important. If the mining companies here outright, without any shred of doubt in my mind, would prefer to work with US mining services. Because what does US mining services come with? The technology is superior, they're efficient, they have ethical corporate rules and practices. Yeah. They put the environment first. And so there's opportunity as, there's more discoveries and there are more mines, being worked on. So I would strongly recommend. There's opportunity in equipment, there's opportunity in supplying fuel, there are opportunities, in all this. Recently, we had a freak accident in the country, looking for safe ways to deliver explosives to the mines. All those are opportunities that exist that companies that are in the mining services can look at. And so I would really encourage them, as I've said, that is big consideration for them as well.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you for your time today, but also for your insights that help us really look into the future with a brightness and with a kind of capacity and opportunity. Any last words of wisdom, encouragement, inspiration for our viewers from around the planet?
Well, what I would say is, I've already said, investing in Africa or Ghana, it's one that you have to be patient. And if you want to do that, I would encourage you to look for mentors like Mr. Wallace, who has been at this for a long time. He knows the environment in and out. I'm glad that he'll be speaking after all of us. He's coming from an impartial viewpoint as to what it really takes to invest here. So I'll leave you with just one word. It's good to invest here. You must be patient, but look for someone who's actually invested here and let them be a mentor or a partner to help you navigate whichever process that exists here. But the rewards are enormous when you invest in Africa. People say it's a turbulent place, but it's also very rewarding. So I'll encourage you to consider. You can start off by trading and then you move to investing. I'll encourage you either way to really look at this market. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with your audience. I look forward to seeing all of you in Accra in July as we look for ways to expand the commercial relationship between Ghana and Minnesota. So thank you very much for your time.
And we look forward to you coming to Minnesota on that first direct flight from Accra one of these days. So thank you again. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Bye.
We are thrilled having Simon help kick off and introduce our next panel. Simon, if you could pull your shared screen down. If I don't know exactly how to do that on my end, but we're going to be joined by our panel for our next part of the program. We got a little preview from Simon of Stephen Wallace, who we're going to hear about his very successful work investing, but also being part of the supply chain and his company. We'll be hearing about that. Abdi Mohammed is our state of Minnesota Trade Office, MTO specialist for the region. I just had the pleasure of being in Dubai at the World Expo, and we had a big delegation from Minnesota at Arab Health. Abdi helped make that happen. He was there for Minnesota Day. So we have a lot of good things going on. And Santiago Davila is our special commercial service agent in our commercial services office, our U.S. Commerce Department office in Minneapolis, serving our region. We are always bragging on his office and the whole commercial service in our state, partnering with our companies, partnering with Minnesota Trade Office, partnering with our other assets of the state to really make it a place that is not just open for business, but cautious and careful and thoughtful. And one of the things Simon reminded us at the end is that there are things about how we do business in Minnesota, paying attention to ethical questions, environmental questions, supply chain questions, relationship questions, the future, that make us special, and we need to make those special characteristics part of who we are and how we present ourselves. It also happens to be true about our companies in Wisconsin, our near neighbors. And I want to turn to our first presenter for our panel, Stephen Wallace, who this is my first opportunity to actually meet in person, but I'm a little bit of a chocoholic, just to be fair. And I signed the agreement bringing the fair trade label to the United States a dozen or so years ago. So I've been very interested. So I'm thrilled to welcome you as our first presenter for this panel. And Stephen, if you could give us a little bit of background. Simon has touched on it a little tiny bit, and give us a sense of some of those things that you found that can help viewers from around the planet have the dream, the ambition to see how you've progressed and prospered, how that's been good on both sides of this equation, and give us some starting points so we'll enter into a more general discussion after all three are presented. But Stephen, take it away.
Terrific. And thank you so much, Mark, and to Basil as well. It's very good to see fellow Midwesterners here at the forefront of global trade and investment. You know, our part of the country, the geographic middle of the United States, is often overlooked, I think, by foreign investors. And I've always felt that's a mistake. It's a missed opportunity. Now, and Mark, I think you referred to it, the historic Midwestern expertise in agriculture and value addition, our Midwestern valuing of higher education, traits of hard work, modesty, frugality, tenacity, and resourcefulness. I think these ought to resonate with many around the world, especially in Ghana and throughout Africa. So when you talked about the traits of Minnesota businesses, if I'd expand it to maybe Midwest, I think it's true, but Minnesota in particular has a long and proud history of engagement with the world, especially with Africa. And I think it goes back to the remarkable Senator Paul Wellstone, who championed Somali immigrants from Africa, as well as immigrants from all over the continent. And so it's really great to see this tradition of global engagement continue. And I'd be remiss without special thanks to Simon Maggi at the AmCham Chamber of Commerce in Ghana. When I think of the resourcefulness and the focus, few private sector actors do a better job in the world than my entrepreneurial colleagues in Ghana. And they're very much a very impressive group. And when I think of US business people complaining when interest rates hit 4 or 5%, I have to laugh, because I think my dear Ghanaian colleagues who've contended with interest rates at 20%, these are the real entrepreneurs on the globe. They're immensely talented cohort. I'm awfully proud to share the podium here with you, Simon, and your colleagues. So please convey my best to them. I've been involved in Ghana for going back well over 40 years, 4 decades. I was an exchange student there when I was 16. So I think when people talk about the engagement, this sort of amicability between Ghana and the US, it starts from many of us on this have either studied in Ghana or Ghanaians have studied or worked for a time in the United States. So there is I think, a warehouse full of goodwill that will benefit all of you entrepreneurs who are thinking of possibly investing in Ghana. I would underscore it is a very robust economy. The Ghana Stock Exchange in the last couple of years, at various times, has been the best performing stock exchange in the world. It's also volatile. It's had years when it hasn't been so good. But I mean, it is probably best regarded as a bit of a frontier market, one with untold growth potential. As Simon said, you should look at it as the long term. Commerce Secretary Ron Brown from the United States some years ago said the mistake a lot of American business people made was clearing customs on a Monday in Accra, thinking they'd leave on Friday as millionaires. And that's just terribly naive. And I think the comments of Simon underscore that you should look at this long term and you will be rewarded handsomely for it. And I think the other sort of anecdote I like to share with folks, in my own state, when I talk about the potential of Ghana, I mean, Ghana is very digitally switched on. And I think the possibilities of Ghana to leapfrog legacy technologies, whether it's chip credit cards, I mean, Ghana's leapfrogged this and gone right to mobile money, which here in the US, it's still gaining its sort of currency. But the fact is, Ghana has more cell phones per person than the state of Wisconsin does, and I would bet the state of Minnesota. So Ghana is a very digitally aware environment. I think this creates great possibilities in fintech, healthcare delivery, manufacturing, agriculture sectors. And let me just close by saying a lot of people looked at the 20th century as the American century. It was always said, the 20th century is the American century, our ascendancy in the world. And the 21st century, to many people, was going to be perhaps the Chinese century or the Indian century. But I think that's mistaken. I really think the 21st century is likely to be the African century. And it may take till the last half of the 21st century, but make no mistake, the potential, the human capital within Africa is absolutely remarkable. And I would fasten your seatbelts and look forward to a really fantastic 21st century for Africa. And I hope, look forward to Minnesota and the great Midwest joining in that success. So let me pause there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. And thank you for giving that both historical view, but also that really positive view into the future. And I agree with you. And we have more to talk about on this panel. But we're going to move to Abdi Mohammed, who we in Minnesota are thrilled that we've been able to convince him to leave his incredible education and training and experience in Nairobi and come to Minnesota. He's been our focus inside of the Minnesota Trade Office for Africa, the Middle East, and India, 3 of our very large diasporas in our state, but also our entrepreneurs and our tech and our new leaders in the business community and the wider cultural community. I mentioned that he was just in charge of leading our state's special delegation to Arab Health. That's the kind of thing the Minnesota Trade Office often does, but it's really a vehicle for people in Minnesota to be able to come to one place that's within the state government and to find out the opportunities and, when we can, organizing things like the recent trade delegation of our governor into the UK and Finland and things like that. Abdi, you've been watching our development, participating and helping us in these webinars over a period of time. Please introduce yourself, the MTO, a little bit and give us a sense of how you see this special focus today on Ghana, helping us unlock that bigger picture.
Thank you, Mark. I'm thrilled to be here. This is my second of the series. I was also here on the Cameroon webinar. I'm happy to say that this has gained a lot of traction. I've received a lot of calls, people asking, about the trade mission to Ghana and Cameroon, about, other services or how they can get to those markets. So thank you, Minnesota Africa United and Mark for doing that. My name is Abdul Wahab Mohammed. I am the regional trade manager for Africa, Middle East, and India. Part of what I do includes, I advise Minnesota's businesses to go out there and export to this part of the region, this region of the world. And it has a lot of potential. So I go around asking Minnesota companies, what are their potential? What do they look at when they look at this market? What are the challenges that they face? And how we as the state can help. Minnesota Trade Office is a state agency that offers free services to Minnesota companies. And the services that we do include technical assistance. We have foreign offices that do market research in Africa. We have a STEP grant that helps companies who want to either attend a trade mission or a trade show. They can get up to 50% of their expenses reimbursed for taking part in these services. And we also help protocol when we have visitors from Cameroon or Ghana or any other country to also observe that protocol and welcome them to the state of Minnesota. We also help companies go on these trade shows that you mentioned, Mac, and that was one in Dubai. But we're also looking at a trade show that we can lobby our Minnesota companies to go to in Africa, and that is something that is in the plan for the next years to come. The other thing that we help Minnesota companies is educate the small startups to start off exporting to international borders, because we see that 95% of the world's purchasing power is out there. It's not just in the US, and we do see that exports really contribute to the bottom line of your company if you start thinking about exporting, and that also brings jobs and you hire more people as you export. So we offer these classes that Minnesota companies can take advantage of. If you look at our calendar, we have the next class that is starting on April 5th, where we get a cohort of companies to come in and have their export strategy. We coach them on the things that they need to put in a plan, and by the end of that session, they will have a strong export plan and to tackle the export endeavors.
It's such an honor for us in Minnesota to have our own state government really focused on helping keep us global and keep us global minded. So thank you. Thank you very much. And Santiago Villa, you are in that special office that bridges us to Lori and to all of your colleagues around this country and around the world. Can you give us a little sense of how that federal agency is embedded in Minnesota and how you work? And so there's quite a group of people watching and chatting, and we have a great audience. And I'm guessing they ring your and Abdi's phones after and during these sessions. So give us a little bit of what your office is about and the special ways that you connect us all together.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Well, I want to say, obviously, thank you, Mark, for the invite. Thank you for the Minnesota Africa United organization. Mark, thank you for all the work that you do with Global Minnesota. I'm always looking forward to your emails talking about the different events and activities in the region. It's quite a treat. A quick introduction about myself. I'm a commercial officer. Similar to Lori, I just finished an assignment in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I've been here in Minnesota for about 6 months now. I like to say that, I count the time that I've been in Minnesota about how many winters I survived. And I've survived one winter. So I'm one year in. But yeah, no, I think Lori and Simon, explained really well how the export journey works. Our office, which is the Minnesota U.S. Export Assistance Center, We are kind of the first half of the equation. Lori and her team in Ghana is the second half of the equation. And if I had to summarize everything that's been said about how we fit in within this export puzzle, I would kind of summarize it with 5 questions, right? The first question is your small, medium-sized company ready to export? Do you have the capacity and the willingness to invest in the long-term play of trying to go into an export plan? The second question is, do you have the right target markets? Obviously, we're focusing on Ghana and Cameroon for the specific trade mission. But you do have to spend some time looking at these target markets and understanding if this is the right fit for your products and services. The third question is, how do you find potential local buyers for your products and services? This is a very important question, and I'll dive a little bit deeper into that one after I'm done. The fourth question is, how do you get paid? Very simple, right? How do you get paid after you've engaged in an export transaction with a potential buyer? And the final question is, how do you actually execute and complete the shipment of your products or the transfer of your services? So through these 5 questions, we have a lot of resources and a lot of information that can help you go through that process and try to figure out. It's complex. Some of these questions are easier than others. But believe me, there's quite a lot of resources and information there to support you. On the question about how you find local buyers, I think this is relevant to this trade mission to Ghana and Cameroon. One of the services that we provide is a business-to-business matchmaking, right? So after we go through the first and second question, right, is this the right market for you? Are you export ready? Do you have the capacity to export? Then we can actually move into the point where we help you establish business-to-business matchmaking. We call it the Gold Key service. It's just a fancy name for you to remember it. But this is just a way for us through a commercial service to help you set up to 5 pre-screen meetings with potential buyers, distributors, sales representatives, agents in country that can help you go through the export process. There is obviously a process and questionnaire that we give you as a company. You fill this out. This helps us understand a little bit about what kind of company you have and what kind of resources you have. And then from that point on, we can work with Lori and her team to try to see if we can actually find those pre-screened candidates for you to meet once you travel to the country. So keep that in mind. This is a business-to-business matchmaking. We call it the Gold Key service. I'm more than happy to provide more information on that later. But, that is the 5 questions that you have to kind of go through as you embark in this export journey. And we're here to help you through that.
Thank you, Santiago. And your whole office has been, a fantastic resource for all of us. And there are lots of people doing different things. For example, many of the people chatting are in the services side, and you have staff there that help with education. We have a lot of colleges. And so that office does many different things. We've been talking a lot about products and mining and cocoa. We've been talking a lot about products, but in fact, the modern Minnesota-Ghanaian connection, as several of you have pointed out, is going to feel and be more digital, more fintech, more services. Just the reference that was made about just how much more Ghanaians are mobile adapted, which is the future, as opposed to we are. I think this is a reminder of the leapfrogging that happens in the digital world. Now, Stephen, you've chosen to do all the pieces it takes to, in a sense, turn the model of the supply chain around and say, let's produce these chocolate products near where some of the chocolate eaters might be. And I note you're near Chicago, which is the candy making capital of my nation. I don't know if other people know that, and it's not just Girl Scout cookies and rocks, but it's many things. Can you give us a little bit of that story? Simon loves your story. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
So, when I looked at Ghana, which had it's for many, many decades, its top export was cocoa. This predates the oil and gas sort of boom. And if you'd ask somebody where good chocolate is made, most people would say Switzerland, Belgium. And I'd always ask, how many cocoa trees do you think grow in Zurich? And the answer, of course, is 0. And so I looked at this as sort of almost an academic exercise in comparative advantage in international trade. Because if you go back, and Adam Smith and the classical economists talk about comparative advantage, what does Minnesota do better than Wisconsin? What does Minnesota do better than the Ukraine or Great Britain or Ghana? And what does Ghana do better than Wisconsin or Minnesota? And if you can put those, reconcile that sort of tension together, then you create value, the pie gets bigger. So my play was really to move up the value chain and say, well, if Ghana has these reputedly the finest cocoa beans in the world, and so many cocoa farmers, earning their livelihood, the middle class of Ghana for many, many years was really built on cocoa. Why couldn't they make world quality chocolate? Which would mean maybe recipe development from the US would have to be exported into Ghana. Maybe some of the packaging materials with inks that were FDA approved and the right sort of weight papers and would have to be exported from the US. But most of the value add could happen in Ghana. So it was really an attempt to move up the cocoa value chain as an experiment to see how much of it could be sort of repatriated, let's say from Switzerland in the chocolate case, back into Ghana, which means it had to get expertise. I think we've talked about that in things like intellectual property, design, recipe development. All these other skill sets had to sort of be then developed in Ghana, because Ghana for most of the colonial time and post-colonial time was really a country of extractive industries. And I think the great potential now is Ghana is going to be a provider of goods and services, not just raw materials. And I think that's the exciting part of what Omanhini, which is the name of my company, was trying to do. And interestingly, the aim was not just it was to sort of create value on both sides of the ocean. And I think in the video, one of the presenters talked about rewriting the narrative. And I think on these sorts of trade missions, for so long, it's been about what can we export, say, from the United States into Ghana. Everyone wants to sell goods and services into Ghana. And Ghana, of course, my colleague Simon, they would like to export goods and services into the new market of the US. And so we have to think more generously and more creatively about how we lift all boats together. What are the things that Simon's membership has a competitive advantage in Ghana? How can we make use of that here in the US, create value, and have this kind of robust economic growth on both sides of the pond? So that's what I have done with Omanhini. It's been a 30-year journey. We've also done a little work in telehealth, using Ghanaian language-speaking doctors and service providers to try to get primary healthcare, not tertiary or final stage, the most expensive healthcare, but try to expand the accessibility of primary care in Ghana, thereby trying to keep the total government spend on healthcare reduced if possible.
Well, so for the whole panel now, you've heard different parts of this puzzle described. I'm wondering if there's been something recent that's come across your desks or your colleagues' desks or something you go, yes, that's where all the pieces came together and there's a sweet spot reach. That's a story you could tell for our viewers to give them that kind of a real world example inspiration. Abdi, I know you've had some amazing folks with you at Arab Health.
Yes, I will start with that. So how this came about was certain Minnesota companies who are involved in the healthcare industry were going to Medica, that is the show in Germany, and exhibiting there and meeting, all distributors from Western Europe, Eastern Europe. And so it came about that Arab Health was the largest trade show in the Middle East, and Africa has a huge attendance from Africa. So, about 10 years ago, my predecessor, Paul, and some of the trade office, members decided to take 2 companies there so that they can showcase their products and meet potential distributors, and that was a wild success. So since then, we've been going back to Arab Health and adding number of companies. Now we're at 8. We're hoping to get to 10 next year. And companies are starting to see that it's not just finding the leads and going there, but it's also going there and finding the leads when you are in that market. And now, as I mentioned, there's the need now to go to attend a trade show in Africa, and that is now in the preliminary stages, where we want to find out if we have a strong trade show in the Western Africa region, or in the Southern or in the Eastern Africa region, as well as the Northern Africa region. A lot of businesses have came about. One story that links me to, when I first started the Minnesota Trade Office to Ghana, I was there when Kofi Annan, former Secretary General, was in Minnesota doing a talk at McAllister. As you may know, he attended the McAllister College, and after he passed on, a certain institute was named after him. But they're interacting with such an amazing leader from the region, and showing the part he played in the world stage, coming from Ghana, being the United Nations Secretary General, co-getting the Nobel Peace Prize with the UN. Such an amazing story that links him to Minnesota and the McAllister College, and it was such a great time to meet a lot of friends from Ghana in that meeting. And since then, I've worked a lot with Minnesota businesses, nonprofits that help people from Ghana. One nonprofit that comes into mind was the Economic Development Solution that hosts the Little Africa, and I had a lot of amazing friends from Ghana that attended that meeting. And since then, we have been going back and forth, helping businesses and startups to export their services and products to Ghana.
Great. Santiago, any great stories that ring your bell?
Yeah, so I'm relatively new to Minnesota, but I can share with you some thoughts on how a typical success story takes place within our world. When I was stationed in Malaysia, one of my colleagues in West Virginia reached out with a very small company that had a really unique technology to make cooking oil into energy. And it just happened that 2-3 months before that call, I had met a really interesting entrepreneur in Malaysia who had the biggest company in Kuala Lumpur that was pretty much buying the oil from all the fast food restaurants and turning it into energy. So it clicked, and I decided to put them together, right? So I set up a meeting, and it was just that perfect meeting, right? Where I introduced them to each other, and then, they started talking, right? They started doing running numbers and talking the same vocabulary. And at that point, I realized that I had kind of to step back, step out of it, and let them do what they do best, which is talking a business talking to another business. And fast forward to now, that relationship that started with that call is actually now evolved into a partnership that's allowing that West Virginia small company enter into the Southeast Asian market, right? So it's about connecting the right people at the right time, identifying the needs of the market, the trends that could potentially create demand for a product or service, and really just let businesses talk to businesses, because that's what they do best.
It's such a great example. And of course, it also is about that larger vision of the circular economy and making sure that nothing becomes waste, but also that ideas are the thing that can move most quickly and can make those connections. So I love that example. You know, we had that COVID still going on, but not only was one of my staff stuck in Ghana, but the head of the local Minnesotan Ghanaian Association. And Isaac Owens was there, and he normally heads all things related to food and food service at our largest sort of public regional hospital, what we now call Hennepin Health. And on his walls, he has, you know, food is medicine, and he would grow special herbs and peppers on the roof because people wanted these special things. But one of the things he told me about, because we would talk on the phone while he was still there, was back in his home, so he was stuck from flights, they were remembering and reintegrating some of their herbal and traditional medicinals that were important for protection from infection and all of that. And that diaspora from around the planet were saying, hey, can you package up this and go to DHL and ship it over? And so, you know, you never know where an idea might come from, remembrance or a new innovation or a solution. I'm wondering if in this next phase, you see some special things that might be coming, that some of these really smart entrepreneurs that are chatting over here in the chat, and it's incredible what all deals and things people are talking about, giving some of our viewers some maybe special insights into a rock to turn over, a door to open, a window to lean out and take a look at something that you've seen. They go, oh, that might be part of the future. Any tips? Stephen's digging into some telemedicine. I can see that.
Well, yeah, Mark, no, I would say maybe in terms of tips and for people sort of contemplating maybe their first trip, or their first sort of business trip back to Ghana. I just remember when I went, I tried to schedule every minute of every day because time was precious, money was tight. And I found that you've got to give yourself some space and time on the ground because Ghana is a very interconnected place. People know people, you'll get there. And so I would say schedule half your time, but leave plenty of time for the connection for someone to say, you know, I'm happy to help you, Steve, but there's someone better. I'd like them to meet with you. And you've got to leave this kind of breathing space to do a lot of, you know, it's like searching for your fairy godmother, to use the old fairy tale. You've got to kiss a lot of frogs to find out who your perfect business partner is. And when Santiago, you know, once in a while you get that first meeting is the perfect meeting. But oftentimes, time horizons, capital, you know, are you thinly capitalized? Are you generously capitalized? All these things that make for the perfect match may take a while. And so my recommendation is you really budget for more than one trip to Ghana. And each trip, give yourself some time that's completely unscheduled. I guarantee, I will promise you, will fill up and you will be running to the plane with your cell phone in hand trying to get that last meeting in. This is I have found in general, everyone in Ghana is very generous, very happy to take a meeting to explore a new possibility. And the social networks are absolutely incredible. For a country as large as it is, it's about 1 or 2 degrees of separation. And much like doing business, I think in the Midwest, it's a phone call or two away, and people tend to be pretty generous in sharing their social networks. And I found that to be the case in Ghana. So allow time for it. That would be my tip.
That's great. Abdi.
You know, looking at the statistics, they say 1 in every 4 people in the world will be in Africa by 2050. That shows that there's a huge population growth, and people-centered services are the things to look for in Africa as a region. You know, healthcare. If you're in Minnesota, because that's one of the biggest industries here in Minnesota, and with such a growth, you would see the need for example, you know, the healthcare insurance market is really you know, minimal compared to the population there. I've seen great folks from Minnesota, you know, people like I forget the name, but the diaspora care, for example.
Yeah, diaspora care. Yep.
There's a huge thing that's coming where you could insure your keens in Ghana while you're still in Minnesota and pay the premiums. That's a huge market that's coming up. Look into things like manufacturing, because Africa has been struggling with value added, as Steve said. Why not take the manufacturing and all the companies that are out here that are doing fabrication? That is a huge market to look at if you're looking into the future. So those are industries that we look at and we keep close watch as we continue to advise Minnesota companies to seek an entry in Africa and Ghana in specifically. And of course, go out to these trade missions, take advantage. It doesn't happen so often when you go out there and meet people and take advantage of Minnesota Trade Office's grants, because I think we're the only entity that does help small and medium companies to travel and still get 50% of their expenses covered by the state or reimbursed. So there's a huge opportunity. We're standing to help and take advantage of our colleagues at the U.S. Commercial Services and of course the AmCham worldwide. I've seen a great help when you work with AmCham. Businesses that are really out there to help U.S. businesses enter into this market. So we stand to help.
Great advice. Santiago, you get the last word.
Yeah, so let me start by giving you a quick piece of data, right? So approximately 98% of nearly 280,000 exporting U.S. businesses are small and medium-sized companies, right? So my point there is, don't be discouraged if you're a small company that wants to export abroad, right? It is a challenging thing to do, but if you have the right product, the right service, and the willingness to do it, you can absolutely take that on. I would say, as far as industries, Mark, ICT and healthcare. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that kind of come up to my mind, right? As Lori was saying, those are probably the two industries that are poised to grow in Ghana. And I actually think that here in Minnesota, we are a healthcare powerhouse. We are an agricultural powerhouse. And the question is, how can we take those areas of strength and then take them to a digitized phase? Mm-hmm. Right. So I've seen a lot of people talking in the chat about, data analytics for dairy products, right? How can we do telehealth? So these are all applications, digital applications of things that we're already good at here in Minnesota. So how can we then take those products and services, the know-how, into a country like Ghana and help them evolve, right? And that, to Stephen's point, that can take some time, right? And you have to think that there is going to be an education phase where you have to come into a country and you have to help them understand that you can do things better, that you can do things in a more digital way that is going to save you costs, it's going to increase productivity, efficiency, and that can take some time. But, that's kind of what we're here, and Lori and her team may know the right people in the government that can champion an idea, an introduction of a digital technology to do so, to impact or disrupt an existing industry. So I would say that, ICT and healthcare and how we can take that to a digital level is probably where there's quite a lot of opportunities between Minnesota and Ghana.
Great. Stephen, Abdi, Santiago, thank you so much for inspiring us and giving us this. And I'm handing this microphone to Basile. Thank you again, Basile, for bringing us together.
Thank you all. And thank you, Mark, so much for this wonderful moderation, and to all our keynote speakers and panelists and members. And now it is my time to really just give you a brief information about our trade mission. Today, we have learned so much about trade between Africa and the United States, and we are looking forward to our trade mission in July. Number one, during this trade mission, leaders from Minnesota will be collaborating with African leaders in the private and government sectors. Our trade mission is actually scheduled from July 5th to July 14th And this will focus on technology, mining, agriculture, healthcare, tourism, ICT, infrastructure, finance, education, and energy sectors. We are planning this trade mission in partnership with the U.S. Commercial Service in Minnesota, Global Minnesota, Minnesota Trade Office, U.S. Chambers of Commerce in Ghana, and the U.S. Chambers of Commerce in Cameroon, and U.S. Chambers of Commerce, and U.S. Embassy in Ghana, and also the U.S. Embassy in Cameroon as well. Throughout this year, we will also be planning trade mission to Kenya, and that will be in October. Plan a trade mission to as well to Tanzania in October as well. And our goal today is really to energize the creation of commercial relationships between Minnesota businesses and Ghana and Cameroon government entities, along with private organizations that will end up in joint ventures between businesses in the continent and businesses in the United States. Our plan is first of all to arrive in Ghana in July, where we'll spend 4 days conducting one-on-one business meetings. We will plan to also host an expo where businesses will be able to expose their product and their services for trade and business opportunity. We also plan on participating in several dinners, happy hours with leaders in Africa that will offer an opportunity for networking, handshakes, closing deals, building strong relationships. We will also be able to take some time for our Ghana, some time to tour Ghana before heading to Cameroon for 4 days. We also want to, for people who have not been able to understand areas of the Ghana community, we want to also create some time to visit some touristic areas and really learn about touristic attraction in Ghana. And during our time in Cameroon, we will also be doing the same planned activities that will be done in Ghana. But our focus will be collaboration with Cameroon leaders during our visit. The registration fee for this trade mission to be part of this trade mission is you pay $300 to participate, and all additional eligibility requirements can be found on our website. MAU will be, if you would like to participate, but unable to participate because you don't have finances, we really encourage you to reach out to the Minnesota Department of Trade. You just heard from Abdi, who talked about STEP grants. MAU can also be able to help you write those grants, application support you, so that we don't want any African diaspora company, neither US company, to miss this opportunity because you don't have the money. We want to support you. We're there for you. If you are also interested in being a partner and sponsoring our trade mission, we will welcome you to become a member of Minnesota Africans United as well. At this time, if there's any question that you have, please, I'll be happy to take questions. Thank you.
Hi, Beso, if you don't mind me, I just want to interject really quick here about the trade mission. I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be a great activity. If there are small, medium-sized companies that are interested in using commercial services as they're planning their travels to Ghana and Cameroon, I would just say kind of 2 quick things. The process for those services, it starts with our office in Minnesota. So, make sure that you do that as a first step. If you reach out directly to Lauren and her team, she's going to pretty much pass that information back to us. So it would just be much easier and faster if you start that connection through us. We'll make sure that we bring in the Ghana team into the conversation and go from there. And the last point I want to make is, our office and the U.S. Commercial Service, we are really good at what we do, but we're not the fastest, okay? So, looking at the timeline, and if the plan is to travel to the region, to Ghana, in the summer, in July, I would say if you're committed and interested in traveling there and you want to use some of these services, please get the ball rolling and start the process as soon as possible. Because we can assume that we're going to see a spike in demand for these services. And we just want to make sure that we work with Lauren and her team to make sure that they have enough bandwidth to assess all the different applications and all the different interests to make sure that we have a successful trade mission. Thank you.
Bazil, I noticed how often our panelists were talking about healthcare and medicine and telemedicine and the growth of that sector. And we will be touching on this at World Health Day, Global Minnesota Symposium on World Health Day, opportunities and successes around the planet. So for folks who are interested, you can go to the Global Minnesota website and just sign up. It's free, it's virtual. But I do think Minnesota as a health and wellness powerhouse is something that we should keep in our minds as we progress going forward, because we're going to have incredible opportunities in mining, in agriculture, many things. But we also have these special things that the COVID pandemic has lifted up as important treasure for the planet, and Minnesotans are very good at sharing, and we'll be doing some of that on Global Minnesota on World Health Day on April 7th.
Abdi.
Thank you, Basil. I should take this opportunity to touch a little bit on the STEP grant. As we have mentioned that there are funds available for Minnesota businesses trying to go to this trade mission. Few things. You have to be a Minnesota company, have been in business for a year, making revenue, not profits, revenue. The other thing to know about this grant is it's a reimbursement grant, so you have to spend, then you get reimbursed. But before you spend any money, even including a ticket, which is an eligible expense, you first have to reach out to the Minnesota Trade Office, get your form, fill, and sign the contract. Then you can spend money that can be reimbursed. Eligible expenses include airfare, hotel, lodging, per diems, ground transportation. Those are the eligible costs that you could get reimbursed for. As I said again, you have to be a small and medium business that, according to the SBA definition. And please reach out to us so we can give you more information about this grant. One thing to note is that you have to have either an exporting service or an exportable goods that you are trying to seek markets for to get this grant. So we'll go through all this information, and once you reach out, and I'll just paste my contact information on the chat, as a lot of people have been asking about that. The other thing I will touch before I head quickly over is the event that I told you about in Brazil, that we will be, part of the Minnesota services that we do in Minnesota is to get companies to be export ready. We talk a lot about you have to be export ready. And to answer that question, we designed these trainings to help companies to be export ready. And as I said, we're doing the first one for this year on April 5th. I'll press the link there as well for those people who are interested, and it's a free link. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now be hearing from Chokon, who will be playing the last video, and we look forward to see you in our next webinar that is focused on doing business in the country of Tanzania, and that will be on April 29th, 2022, same time. Thank you.
My name is Temigiwa Toboso. I'm the founder and CEO of LifeBank. LifeBank is a supply chain company operating in 3 countries in Africa. We deliver critical resources, critical commodities like blood, oxygen, vaccines, the works, to busy hospitals in emerging markets. We're raising a round that would allow us to expand our business even more, expand what we're currently doing. And by being listed at the Prosper Africa deal room, we think that we'll have a capacity to meet the right investor. I like to think of myself as having this dual, place in the world. I'm Nigerian, basically African and American. And I think for me, what I see is opportunity to, drive impact in people's lives on the continent, the opportunity to, invest and actually have returns. Right? I think for me, what is really incredible about operating in Africa is that, it's like greenfield, right? There's so many opportunities here on the continent to do two critical things. For me, it is impact, actually have an impact on human life, impact that you can count, that you can see. And more importantly, and maybe equally important, is getting that return. And the size of the continent makes this actually possible.